very special episode today because we got a special guest. We got Paul, who is the CEO of and co-founder of Edge. Do you want to say hello, Paul?
Hello, thanks everybody for having me. Glad to be here. Thanks, Simon.
All right, pleasure. Well, Paul goes live every Friday as well for the Edge community. And we've invited him along as a special guest because a new pitch went live today, which is the Edge round. So we're going to speak with Paul all about that. And just before we do, we've got some special new features that we're due to announce today. And we're going to cut the portfolio news short today because we're going to focus on Paul and any questions that you might have. So remember, we're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you're on Twitter and you want to get our attention to ask a question to either Paul or myself, then the hashtag is #BFLive. That's #BFLive. If you're a Telegram person, the Telegram group that we use is the one that we set up when we did our initial token sale, which is @BF_token. That's @BF_token. Or if you're watching the recording, we will return to these in the comments, or you can use the live chat if you're watching on YouTube live. And there's also Facebook, and we've got our team scouring all the different networks to try and find your questions and collate them. As usual, we've got Famida here moderating, who will be looking out for your questions and asking questions to both Paul and myself this time. And without further ado then, we're going to get into some of the special announcements we got for you in terms of new features and new pitches. So if you head over to the invest section on Bank to the Future, that's where we list all of our new primary offerings. And by primary offerings, we mean equity, security tokens, or convertible notes, which are new, where the company's newly raising funding with us. This particular pitch, the new pitch live, is Edge, who has a convertible note, and the lead investors are BitMEX and Fembucci Capital, who are real veteran, well, Fembucci are veteran VCs in our space, been around for a while, so it's great to see that. And BitMEX is an interesting one because they are, the largest, one of the largest futures exchange. And I'm not familiar with them making too many investments. So it would be interesting to hear the background on how that came about, but great to see diversity of investors. And obviously there's the Bank to the Future syndicate. So qualifying investors can head over to the Invest tab and they can check out the basic overview details. They can see Paul and his team recorded a video. And if you qualify to invest, then you can head over to the Invest tab, enter your details, and you can also engage in the community investor zone or the discussion forum where you can ask questions to the team. So Edge
Simon, sorry to interrupt you. Okay. But your screen isn't full, as in your face isn't full. It's actually just your show notes.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm sharing my screen, am I? Okay, all right, thanks for interrupting. Let me head on Zoom. And how do I stop sharing the screen? I think I have to find a red button somewhere, which I can't find. Cool. Okay. All right. Can you see me now without the screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks, Famida, for stopping that before it went too far. So we are live. We see all the raw mistakes that we make, but let's move straight back on so you can see me now. Why we have a moderator. In terms of pitches coming soon, we've got a DX exchange coming up that we're currently working with. We're trying to get that signed off. And we've also got Concrete, which is a real estate equity crowdfunding platform that's making a move into the security token space. In terms of Edge, right now, through no fault of Paul and the team at Edge, it's currently live to non-US investors only at the moment. We've extended the pitch longer, and Paul has been incredibly patient with us because we just had to make some new changes on our platform as a result of some new compliance requirements from our US broker-dealer, where we're changing the escrow provider, which has caused a few delays in opening it up to US investors. But our goal is that we can actually make those changes before the pitch expires so that we have a final pop at the end where US investors should be able to participate. The US broker-dealer has signed off on the deal already, so they're happy with all the due diligence. But there's been a few changes which meant that we've had to change our escrow provider in order to remain compliant with US securities laws. So we're hoping that the dev team are looking into those documentation right now, and they'll be reintegrating that. But unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit of time. But the Edge team have very kindly agreed to extend the pitch so that we can get that integration and try and get it open to US investors via our broker-dealer. So that's the one deal we've got live at the moment, with more coming. In terms of the secondary market, we went live last week with the blockchain.com SPV, which joined some of the other companies with the BitPay SPV, the Kraken SPV. What else have we got? The Bitfinex SPV, the Circle SPV, and those are the main ones on our secondary market in beta right now. But part of the requirement for coming out of beta was that we launched our new fiat deposit feature. And we're very happy to announce that the first version of that is now live. So shortly, I'm just going to head over to the new my screen and show you and walk through the BF fund section and how to deposit dollars to your account so that you can use it either to invest in the Edge deal if you're a qualifying investor, or any deals on our secondary market or any of the upcoming deals, because there's some big advantages of doing it this way in terms of lower fees and having a much more convenient way of investing in pitches. So we're going to head over to a demo, and then we're going to turn over to a quick interview with Paul, and we'll take any questions from the community for either Paul or myself before we close this off. So let me just figure out, while I fall off my chair, how to share the screen again now that I'm intending to share it, and then I can give you a quick demo. So okay, so hopefully you can see my screen right now. Famida, does that all look good on your side?
Yep, everything looks good.
Great. Okay. So as discussed earlier, if you want to find new deals live, just hit the Invest tab. And on the Invest tab, you can see all the new primary offerings, as well as the archive of some of the other companies that we've done in the past and different types of deal. You can see an overview of the type of deal. So this one's a convertible note. If you want to check out the archives of BF Live episodes, we went through all the different types of products, comparing convertible notes to straight equity, to security tokens. But convertible note is a form of an equity pitch where it's a contract that can convert debt into equity at a later stage. And it's a very common investment vehicle used in Silicon Valley and the States when a company hasn't quite set the valuation and they want to achieve a funding goal or raise some funding. And then later, once they do a VC round later, it converts to equity and you get a fixed discount to that, whatever it converts at. In order to find those details, you can go over to the View Investor page. Now, because this account is already an account of a qualifying investor, I can go straight through to the details and I can see some of the more details around how the convertible note works, the discount rate. I can download the investment agreement that our SPV would be signing with the Edge team if this meets its minimum funding goal. And we're happy to say it's already met its minimum funding goal. So that's great news. All investments that happen from here do go ahead. You can also go over to the Invest section, enter the amount you want to invest. The minimum amount for this particular pitch and most pitches on Bank to the Future is $1,000. Hit continue, and the different payment options will be available for you. You can select an altcoin, whether it be Tether or something else, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or you can now go to the fund section of your account and you can deposit dollars. So I'm just going to give a demo of what that looks like right now, because it's all been redesigned to be a lot more intuitive and a lot more easier for you to follow. So in this particular account, you can see all of the different things that you might be able to deposit or any funds that you might hold. If you've invested in a security token or token pitch in the past, this is where you would see the tokens, where you can withdraw them and claim them, or you can use it to simply add some dollars to your account so that you can actually invest in pitches. Now, one of the big advantages of adding dollars to your account in this way is you can actually right now deposit completely free, which means that once you've deposited for free, you can invest those in any pitch for free, and you don't have to incur any of the escrow fees that you normally would when investing directly in a pitch. And so there's a big savings to doing it in this way. So the way that the fund section works is it lists all the different, different types of currencies, whether that's the Bank to the Future token, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or dollars. And it gives you a nice little portfolio breakdown now, so you can see the value of any funds that you hold on Bank to the Future. And you can also see all the different transaction history here. We've included a nice filter. So if you've done, for example, transactions in another currency in the past, then you can filter through all of those transactions and get a nice overview of everything. You can see the total amount incoming, outcoming in that, and all of the different transactions. You can click here to get additional details on whether that was an investment, whether you wanted to get your wallet address that was used, the TXID, depending on if it was cryptocurrency. And it's a lot more easier and intuitive. But what I want to do right now is just demo to you the process of depositing funds to your BnkToTheFuture.com account so that you can use them for investing in either a primary market deal or a secondary market deal. And so you head over to the fund section. I'm just going to switch my camera off while I'm doing this. Here we go. And you can select the type of currency that you're looking to deposit. In this case, it's either the Bank to the Future token or US dollars. If you go to US dollars, you can use that in order to either to stay in the crypto world if you've got Tether, or you can just do a bank wire with your, in order to put dollars on the account. If you've got tethers, you can either use the Omni protocol, which is the most common version of Tether that's been used in the, which was the one it launched with. And that's used by most exchanges, but more and more are now converting over to Tether on Ethereum because it's obviously built on top of Ethereum rather than Bitcoin. So it's cheaper and faster, and more exchanges are using that for Tether. But if you want to deposit dollars through fiat, then you can simply select dollars now. Through our banking partnership, you click next, and it will tell you the details at which to actually send those funds to. The good thing here is you don't need to declare the amount that you'll be sending. You just simply need to send it. But here's what's really important. You've got to use this reference code. We will, if you forget to use the reference code, we'll probably match it up, but it's not going to be automated, and it's going to cause delays in you getting the funds showing on your account. But if you use that reference code is what we will use to match the funds up and make sure that they appear in your account the very second they appear. We're currently using the SWIFT network. So this works globally for people in the US or outside the US. Obviously, Edge isn't open to the US at this stage until we got that signed off and completed the integration. But once that go live, you'll be able to do that. And we're currently working on ACH, which is for those of you that are not from the US, you may not have heard of that. But for those of you from the US, it's the local payment rails for the banking system in the US. So you can just simply use those details, make a transfer, and as long as you include that reference, no matter whatever amount you send, we'll match that up, and you can click finish there. And it's as simple as that. If you want to do that again with Tether, perhaps you've got some Tether, you can now send it just selecting whether you've got it on Ethereum or Omni. The way you would know that is that if it looks like a Bitcoin address, then it's Omni. If it looks like an Ethereum address, then it's Ethereum. You might not be used to those formats, but we won't let you make a mistake. If you tried to send Bitcoin on Omni and you selected Ethereum, then it will just give you an error message saying it's a wrong type, and you just need to go back. But here it will then give you an address and a QR code. If anyone sends money to this right now, then it will deposit to this dummy account. So please don't do that unless you want to give us free money. And it's as simple as that. So you can then save this address. You can send funds again. If you don't need to declare the exact amount, we'll pick it up from the blockchain, and it's all automated as soon as it's confirmed within the blockchain. So you can do that right now to your account, and then you can use those funds to invest in Edge or any of the secondary market deals or any future deals if you want to have them ready. I'm just going to take a quick water break to keep my voice fresh. Okay, you'll also notice, I'm not going to demo it right now, but the withdrawal process has been significantly streamlined, and it's a lot simpler. One thing I did want to say is in previous versions of Bank to the Future, we asked you not to send funds from an exchange. With this new release, you can now send them from wherever you have them, whether it's an exchange, whether it's a wallet, whether it's self-custodial, whether it's custodial. As long as you send them to that wallet, we will receive them no matter where they come from. We used to have to do it only via a wallet where you controlled the private key so that we could match those up and deliver funds, but now we can match that up no matter what with this release. So I'm now going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to get into the meat of it. We're 20 minutes in, and we're going to start on turning over to Paul. So give me a second while I put my camera back on and stop sharing the screen. Okay, so hopefully you can see me now. And we're going to turn over to Paul. So Paul, you may not remember this, and I didn't tell you this in advance, but I believe the first time I met you was at a conference in the UK, and it was either you or your team. I think it was right in the beginning. And Airbits, which is what you used to be known as, was exhibiting. And lots of people were telling me about the Airbits wallet. So I came over and said hello. And if I remember, this was a time when everyone was really focused on Bitcoin ATMs and where you could spend Bitcoin. And this was a time and era when the whole store of value argument wasn't really a thing, and everyone was really focusing on where you could spend Bitcoin. And they were saying that ATM was one of the best wallets, and it had just come along. So I can't remember whether that was, I know that there was a real groundbreaking Bitcoin expo or event in 2013, which is when Bitcoin went like just before the Mt. Gox pump, and it went up to like 1,250. And I remember companies like Butterfly Labs exhibiting there, but there was also one in 2014, and I believe that was the one that Airbits was exhibiting in. Can you remember?
Yeah, actually in 2014, we had launched at the beginning of the year, actually, a merchant directory. This is kind of our original vision, was not just the wallet, but also integrating the ability for people to know where to use Bitcoin. And so that was actually what even people today go, oh, we really miss that feature, because we don't have that anymore in Edge. But as we're seeing in today's market, the ability to spend Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies isn't quite where we were expecting it to be, at this point in time. But yeah, in 2014, we'd exhibited at Inside Bitcoin's New York. Actually, was when we had shown off kind of a demo of the wallet, but the full release of the merchant directory, and then as well into Toronto. Bitcoin Expo of 2014, where our team had actually contributed to and competed in the hackathon, which had built at the time dark market, which people might know today as Open Bazaar, now led by the OB1 team and company. But those were the primary conferences that we had gone to in 2014. And then we kind of went and took the rest of the year to fully build out the wallet platform, launching near the end of the year, 2014. Going into 2015 is when we really tried to grow the application, stabilize it, and increase market share.
Okay, all right. Well, memory doesn't serve me well, but there was definitely someone at that conference talking about Airbits or demoing Airbits, and I remember that was the first time I saw it. So, Paul, why don't you give us the backstory? Like, what's your background? How did you end up creating Airbits? And then we can start moving forward to when it changed to Edge and what inspired that.
Exactly. So my background is in software, hardware engineering. Went to Berkeley. Worked in Silicon Valley at a couple different companies, most recently at NVIDIA, although recently means, back in the early 2000s. Was fortunate enough to surround myself with incredibly smart people working on incredibly hard problems in engineering and graphics, 3D, awesome stuff. It's interesting to see that my world has gone full circle, having gone from graphics into crypto, and then now both are pretty tightly related, with a lot of NVIDIA's revenue having a lot to do with the price of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But I actually went into small business for about 10 years after working in Silicon Valley. And that's at the time when I had discovered Bitcoin, and it blew my mind in every way, shape, and form. I went down that rabbit hole, never came out. Tried to use it in 2013, just from the viewpoint of send, receive, store, and found that there was definitely a lot to improve on, a lot to build. And so put a team together, got some funding, launched the company in 2014 as Airbits, as you had mentioned, built that merchant directory and built Airbits as simply a mobile Bitcoin wallet. But the core differentiator, the main reason that made Airbits and our company even today Edge, is the way that we secure keys and the way we secure data. We kind of coined the term, even in the era of Airbits, we coined the term edge security as a mechanism of securing data at the edges of the network, not kind of in central servers that single companies control, but on individual users' devices, and at the very edge of the network are people. And so that's the way we secured keys in Airbits, and we had grew that platform and incorporated new functionality, started adding to the security model, specifically things like two-factor authentication that was invisible to the user. You tap a button and it's on, to password recovery capability, which in the world of encrypted data is nearly non-existent. And all of that complexity that we build for encrypting and backing up data is hidden behind a very familiar user interface of just create an account and log in, whether it be biometric, password, PIN login. The user never had to see 12 or 24 words, nothing to write down, no PDF to back up. And that was at the heart of what made kind of Airbits unique and compelling to a lot of, especially the kind of the newbie users or people that weren't very technical or driven towards cryptocurrency.
Yeah, so let's unpack that a bit. So one area of constant contention in our industry is that Bitcoin gave people the ability to own their own money, spend their own money, and do it in a way where it doesn't have to be stored with anybody. And really, that is people always talk about what is the use case of Bitcoin, and to me, the killer app of Bitcoin is the ability to own your own money and spend your own money. And I think that's going to become more and more important to more and more people in the future, as it has over its adoption curve. Now, what happened is that in humans' desire to have a simple way to acquire Bitcoin and use Bitcoin, they opted for user experiences that they're familiar with. And one of the largest companies that emerged was Coinbase. And Coinbase essentially created a very easy way for them holding your Bitcoin for you. But it changed Bitcoin from, having a two-tiered economy where you have Bitcoins that you own and then Bitcoin stored at the equivalent of a Bitcoin bank. And more and more people opted for that because there is a familiar user experience of logging in, username, password. But essentially we have ended up creating the banking system potentially and all of the risks and challenges around it again, but for Bitcoin. So one of the real challenges is how do we give people the ability to still own their own money, spend their own money, and use Bitcoin the way it was originally designed, but in a way that grandma can do it, and without having to give it to somebody else. So, this whole thing of self-custodial versus custodial, where someone else is looking after it for you versus you looking after it, really became a conversation around Bitcoin. So Airbitz has, I think, achieved, or is aiming to achieve and has achieved, I think the mix between the Coinbase user experience versus the self-custodial ability to own your own money. So maybe you can unpack that a little bit and some of the challenges you've overcome.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right on the head. That's exactly what we're trying to build, and what we feel very confident we've built over the past several years is the exact user experience that people are familiar with when they create an account on a website or a mobile app. Just a simple username, password. It has password recovery capabilities, PIN login, biometric login. They never have to see a private key, but they fully control it. Keys are created on their device. They're encrypted with their credentials. They're automatically backed up. So if you lose that phone, lose that computer, you're okay. And then they're automatically synchronized between devices that you might log into: your phone, your Android phone, your tablet, and your computer. That's the key, is to really give that familiar user experience while still giving all of the core benefits of Bitcoin. Because fundamentally, I think that of the vast majority of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is held custodially, like 60, 70%, we're going to lose all of the benefits of cryptocurrency, everything from its utility, its transferability, its censorship resistance, and even, and many people disagree with me on this, and even its inflation resistance or predictable inflation. Because if you look at why money was inflated since the beginning of time, and I don't want to go down this kind of economic rabbit hole, but it was inflated only as soon as you trusted a third party with holding it. That started the entire kind of ripple effect of monetary inflation, because you now no longer could guarantee how much was actually being held by that third party. So it drove us on an ideological level to build the technical solution to this problem, and make sure that even if it's grandma, even if it's grandpa, or anyone that isn't as familiar with crypto, they can feel very familiar with the solution that we've built to be able to hold and transact crypto on their behalf.
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point, because the fixed money supply is the reason why Bitcoin's so important to me, as well as the other things. But it's is that which makes it so unique. And we've already seen it with Mt. Gox as an example, where the Bitcoin had been hacked and stolen, yet everybody still believed they had a certain balance, and therefore, are there really a fixed supply of Bitcoin, or is there people thinking that they have Bitcoin, but more in Mt. Gox there was more Bitcoin than they actually had? So this custodial is the challenge, that and moving everyone to self-custodial is about defending the integrity of Bitcoin and the world that it can bring.
Absolutely, thumbs up to that.
Yeah. Okay, so now without getting too techno, because I know, Paul, you are a security expert. People do. I remember. I think I saw you in a San Francisco conference when I think it was John McCarthy, the first time he came out supporting the crypto community. I think it was his crypto virginity. And I remember that was the first time I met you in the States. And, everyone does turn to, Paul as the guy that just really, really does focus on security, really, really focusing on that. So could you help us understand? If I pull up a Trezor wallet right now, which is recognized as the standard for storing Bitcoin in a secure way by some people. More paranoid people probably wouldn't. But I log in and I have to remember these 24 phrases. And these 24 phrases are essentially the private key that I can use to back it up. So why with you do I not need those 24 phrases? And if I don't have those 24 phrases and I lose my phone or I lose my device, how do I get my Bitcoins back?
Got it. So Edge does, and same as Airbits when we had launched Airbits, is that it creates those 24 words. Those words are still created with full random entropy on your phone, but then they're encrypted on your device before they're even stored on disk on your phone. Then that encrypted bundle is backed up to our servers. So we do hold, in a way, we are custodying encrypted data. But then that data can be synchronized between the devices by just simply logging in on another device if you were to lose your phone. And that's effectively how we provide that ownership of data, much like you would own your data if you encrypted, a document on your computer, but then put it onto Google Docs. Like, you still aren't giving Google access to that data because you've encrypted it client side on your device. And what we've done is we just simply put 2 and 2 together. Instead of having to take those 24 words, put it in a file, use some encryption tool to encrypt it, and then put it onto the cloud, all that happens automatically by just simply kind of creating an account and logging in. And while a Trezor is, a Trezor, a Ledger, many hardware wallets are considered gold standards as far as security, I think one of the things that this security industry forgets is that you can't look at security from a single viewpoint. You can't look at it from the viewpoint of just how secure is this singular device. And admittedly, those hardware devices are very secure. They're very impenetrable in and of themselves. However, there's a major kink in the armor of those solutions, which is those 24 words. So once you take those words and throw them at a user of all sorts of technical backgrounds and understandings, you throw it at the user and say, secure this thing, right? Just secure that thing. Now you've opened up this big can of worms, and now I've required the user to figure out their own personal security and OPSEC around those 24 words. Now, where do they put it? Do they have a vault, a safe, a filing cabinet, or just literally a piece of paper underneath their keyboard at work? And more importantly, isn't how do they secure it, but also how do they make sure that they have access to that in the future, so that when the hardware device potentially fails or gets destroyed or gets lost, they actually have access to that backup. And so there is this challenge of humanity. We kind of call it out of sight, out of mind. And so if we don't see that backup, we don't ever have to use it on a daily basis. How do we know it's there? How do we even remember where it is? And I think this, if you look at the history of cryptocurrency, most cryptocurrency hasn't been hacked in a non-custodial solution. It's not that we lose crypto from a hack in a non-custodial solution, whether software or hardware. It's because we simply lose it. The vast majority is just simply untouched. Probably Satoshi himself lost keys, which is why a lot of it hasn't moved. And so that being one of the security problems to solve that I think the industry needs to focus on as well, not just simply building this, bulletproof bomber device, but leaving it to the user to deal with a lot of security challenges. And that's where we come in. And we try to find that full, complete balance of implementing as hardened security as we can in the software on the device itself, but also being very forgiving of the user and making sure that we protect them from their own mistakes.
Yeah, and I guess if you buy into the fact that now we have the ability to own our own money, one thing that this innovation is bringing is people looking to give people the ability to own their own everything, whether it be their privacy, whether it be their identity. But what good is all of that if we can't get it right in terms of, firstly, the first option you've got is you either just give it to someone else and say, I trust them to look after it more than I trust myself.
Right.
Which in many cases is the right option, because some people, their understanding of how to secure their own stuff is better left with someone else. And that's only because it's so damn complicated. And you've got to start thinking of all these different things of what to do with your phrase, where to put it, what happens if that gets burned, all these things that you've got to kind of navigate, and then start thinking about, you might have done that with a small amount of money at first. And then let's say crypto becomes worth a lot and suddenly it's a life-changing amount of money. Well, how much of that is going to disappear with people dying without actually being able to give it and pass it on to their family, simply because they didn't want to trust the private key to a lawyer or something like that. And they're trying to figure out in their head, well, how do I pass it on? And then there's all these interesting cases that come which in the end, many people just say, oh, sod it, I'll just store it with Coinbase or in a custody solution. So really what you're doing, although it sounds very technical, very security driven, is actually the problem to solve for the future of our industry, and the promise of actually being able to take our privacy back as ordinary people, not just crypto geeks.
Absolutely. I think that you touched on a very interesting topic, is that solving this problem of private keys for cryptocurrency and people owning their own funds doesn't just solve it for cryptocurrency. It actually solves it for data in general. Any kind of sensitive user data, our own information, our own photos, videos, documents, anything now can be stored and secured in a very similar manner that we secure private keys. Now, cryptocurrency has some additional benefits such as multi-sig transactions and signatures that can be spread across different people. But the core of what we build with encrypting data, automatically backing it up, synchronizing it, using the cloud without trusting the cloud, that has far greater implications than just simply cryptocurrency. But once again, any kind of sensitive data. And you'll notice in our apps that users can actually tag transactions with additional information, like who did I send that money to? What was it for? Was it for dinner? Was it an income or an expense? And that information in the app is also encrypted on the device, backed up and synchronized between their devices, just like the private keys. So we're actually already taking that security model for private keys and extending it to user sensitive data, which is information about their financial transactions.
Okay, so switching gears slightly, one of the challenges that we've spotted as investors in the industry and in different wallets is an effective business model to monetization and turn this into something that either can be, IPO'd, acquired, because another company might be able to make use of it, or a business model that can lead to, revenue generating and eventually turning into a profitable company. That's been a real challenge for the wallet industry. What types of things have you seen there, and what's the future business plan?
Got it. So this actually lends itself really well into the transition of what made us turn into Edge. So in the year 2017, we went very heads down and rebuilt a lot of the tech of Airbitz and rebranded the company and relaunched as Edge. And in the process of that rebuild, we made the tech much more flexible on two fronts. Number one, we made it where the core of Airbitz, the key management and blockchain interaction, actually became a platform that other applications can use. And we do currently license that out to other applications, much like a bank would license out the fact that they have, a Visa capability. Like Chase Visa card is licensed out to United for their United Rewards card. We effectively take the technology for the key management, the account management, and the blockchain interactions and license that out to other companies that want to build their own apps that can transact in cryptocurrency. They may be simple wallets, or they might be much fancier than wallets, such as we have a partner that does a decentralized hedge fund. Deposit Bitcoin, it trades it for you without any custodians. So we do license that out, and that is one of our revenue streams. Second, we made the code much more flexible to support multiple different blockchains. Obviously, this value of key management branches far beyond just Bitcoin, but to other different blockchains that are trying to accomplish different things than Bitcoin. And so the language became much more flexible and modular in that essence. And then the core of what is now the Edge product, the mobile application that is Edge, is now a non-custodial exchange. The wallet functionality of just being able to send and receive is admittedly deprioritized. There's no merchant directory, and we're in an era of speculation, trying to figure out what crypto is going to be, what different cryptos are going to be successful in the future. And so exchange functionality and the modularity for us to incorporate different exchanges was a core focus in Edge. And that's what you'll see inside of the application, integration with almost a dozen different partner exchanges to do crypto to crypto and fiat to crypto. And that has a very, very clear monetization strategy. Those right now, the centralized exchanges are some of the biggest companies in the world. Obviously, one of our investors, BitMEX, is one of the biggest exchanges in the world. We're trying to bring a lot of that functionality and a lot of that revenue stream that the centralized exchanges are really extracting and bringing it into the non-custodial world, both monetizing companies that are trying to deliver the true value proposition of Bitcoin, as well as providing a much better security model and user-controlled model to these retail investors.
Yeah, I think this is a really exciting turn of our industry now, where the wallet, it was very much separate parts of the ecosystem. You had the wallets, then you had the exchanges and miners and different parts. But what I've started to notice, particularly this year, is a trend towards these different parts of the ecosystem becoming well established and now integrating into a point where we can deliver a seamless user experience. As particularly one that is really interesting is the self-custodial exchange. Now, there's been a lot of talks about decentralized exchange, and everybody knows that hack after hack after hack, that the centralized exchange is like a necessary evil in our industry. And even they don't want to be storing people's Bitcoins. None of, we're shareholders in many of them. If they had their way, they wouldn't touch a Bitcoin, but you have to in order to deliver a user experience that people are used to be able to trade at the pace that they're looking for. But what I'm starting to see is really a movement towards people, if we can get the ease of being able to own your own money and secure it in a real simple way, then simply the wallet and the exchange can just plug together, and we could actually deliver upon that promise of having that self-custodial, the ability to go in and out and own your own assets, which really is the final part of the promise of our industry of being able to deliver what this was meant to do. So it's really great to see these different parts of the ecosystem. And I think more and more people are now getting comfortable with self-custody. At the same time as custodial solutions, becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, but we need to make sure that the self-custodial part becomes really important to more people. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely the custodial solutions will always exist. I've never felt that we're going to be able to replace centralized exchanges, in the long run. They'll always exist, but I think that what we need to get to is to the point where the custodial solutions are only used by the people that need that user experience. They need very high frequency, fast trading, bot-based trading, and very, very low fees, 10 bips, 10 basis points. But for the 99% of everyone else in the world that isn't looking at trading with that level of frequency and therefore doesn't need that type of user experience, all they're looking to do is, hey, I want to acquire some crypto, and maybe a few months later sell a little bit if I think the price is high, or then actually even use it at a certain point. And for them, they don't need a full custodial solution. They can interface with the centralized exchanges in what we call an ephemeral or temporary custody model, where money flows through the exchanges, but it never sits with them. And so this was pioneered, I think, early on by one of our early partners, Gladera, where you could buy Bitcoin, but the money just flowed through them and they immediately sent it out on chain to your non-custodial wallet, hardware, software, or whatnot. And now, then we saw the transition of that going into crypto to crypto space, pioneered by Shapeshift, where you send crypto out and then crypto comes back in. And that model, both fiat to crypto and crypto to crypto, integrated tightly with a non-custodial kind of exchange wallet solution, is what I feel will be the solution that the majority of retail investors will be utilizing going forward. It eliminates the custodial risk for the exchange as well as for the user, provides a fairly good user experience. It's a whole lot better than having to deposit money into an exchange, do a trade, wait for the trade to finish, request a withdrawal, and then wait for the withdrawal to come back out into your wallet. So using a centralized exchange with a non-custodial wallet is actually a big pain in the butt if you want to use both. But once they're integrated, it's buttery smooth. And so that's what we're excited to deliver. And we've put out a lot of tech to make that integration much more seamless, not just for us, but for other wallets in the industry. We've put out an API so that centralized exchange websites can actually talk back to a wallet to make that communication much more seamless. And it's showing good returns in that we have a ton of exchange integrations that have both come alive very quickly and are going to be coming alive over the next quarter or two throughout 2019. And I think you're going to see that Edge, especially Edge, is going to be a global leader in being able to provide, especially fiat on-ramp, off-ramp services almost everywhere in the world. And here's another a little cool nugget about this transition that you were talking about, Simon, is that unlike centralized exchanges, non-custodial software solutions can actually scale globally because we don't actually deal with the regulatory burden and the banking relationships in each of the regions that we want to service. We don't make enemies, we make friends and partners in those regions. And so we will soon, probably within a quarter, cover more of the world for buy and sell with more payment options than even the largest exchange in the world in Coinbase. And so this is the transition I'm excited about. We'd like to think that we're definitely heading the charge, but you'll see some others that kind of follow on as well.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see if we've got some questions from the community. Famida, have you managed to pull together some questions for either Paul or myself? Hopefully, Paul.
Yeah, sure. There are some questions. We do have 10 minutes on the clock.
Okay.
So the first question we have in the live channel is, what's the valuation of the Edge pitch versus the last round raised a few years ago?
I'll take this one, actually. The reason I have to take it is because for compliance reasons, we can only share that with qualifying investors. So you need to actually head over to the Edge pitch. We need to check that you are a qualifying investor, and then there's a special forum. Paul will jump in. He'll be able to take any of those questions. But this note is actually a convertible note, which means that it's a non-valued pitch. Do we know what we did the valuation cap at?
Are we able to? We do have a valuation cap.
Yeah.
I presume it based on compliance, we aren't able to say that on air live. But there's a valuation cap, and it's best can say it's higher than the Airbits one.
Yeah. So any particular investment related questions, then please create an account on Bank to the Future. Head over to the Edge pitch. Use the discussion forum, and once we know you're qualifying, then Paul will jump in, or the team will jump in and get those questions answered for you.
All right, so the next question we have is, can you share something on how Edge gets paid?
Got it. So I think we might have covered that question prior, which is how we enable exchange functionality inside of our app. So the exchange functionality through our partners does reap us revenue from the exchange fees that people are charged to do crypto to crypto exchanges and fiat to crypto exchanges. As well, we do license out our SDK to other applications that want to build crypto or actually non-crypto based apps that use our key management or blockchain transaction capability.
And for those non-techie people, SDK is software development kit, which is all the tools you need to build an application using the technology that Edge has built.
Exactly.
Okay, so the next question in the live is, how is this different from Bread?
Got it. So great question. So Bread is also a non-custodial kind of client-side application. Our biggest differentiator is both the SDK, the software development kit, which is available for other applications to use, and another method by which we license the technology. Both Edge and BRD are both open source, so we're similar in that regard. We do support a tremendously much larger amount of cryptocurrencies than BRD, including Stellar, Lumens, XRP, Ethereum. They do support as well. Monero, or one of the few, if not the only, mobile multi-asset platform wallet that supports Monero, EOS, and soon to come others such as Tezos, Binance Chain and whatnot. So we do have a much richer set of cryptocurrencies supported. As well, once again, the key piece, the key differentiator in Edge is the way we manage keys. So in BRD, you see there are 12 words that you have to write down. And that 12 words is the 12 words for the different wallets you might create in BRD. But if you were to, for example, import another set of 12 words, it would wipe out the previous 12 words you had. And so with Edge, we're able to import and create multiple blocks of 12-word phrases for each cryptocurrency, encrypt all of them, and back them up without the user having to see or deal with those individual keys, and instead just feel like they're creating an account and logging in. And a big differentiator in that regard as well is because the user doesn't write down 12 keys and instead they create a username and password, that username can actually be two-factored. So even if a user were to write down their password somewhere in username and someone else saw it, with two-factor, it can protect the user against losing those funds. Whereas you cannot two-factor 24 words. If you wrote those words down under your keyboard and someone saw it, well, there's no two-factor, they have your money. So that's the fundamental core difference between Edge. We're a non-custodial exchange, and we actually feel like one, feel like some of the familiar centralized exchange experiences such as Coinbase.
That's actually a really good point, because I've always, as I'm writing down those 24 phrases, I've always thought to myself, well, you need 2FA on that if someone finds it. But,
exactly, you can't 2FA it.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so you might have actually answered this already,
okay.
But I'm going to ask it anyway because it is in the live chat and everyone's questions deserve to be answered.
Okay.
So is Edge getting paid in fiat or crypto from its exchange partners?
Almost entirely crypto, although we have, I think, one exchange partner that does send us a bank transfer for our revenue. But definitely, we are a crypto company. We want to get paid in crypto. Everybody at Edge, all of the staff, employees, and even contractors are all paid in Bitcoin. We've been that way since day one, all the way until today. But we occasionally will get paid in fiat, but it's definitely a rarity. It's one of the minor ways that we get paid. Mostly it is in crypto, when we're happy to say that.
Cool, that's it actually, surprisingly, in the live chat. Simon?
Okay, well, that's probably a good time to close it off. I got one final question.
Sure.
I know last time I saw you face-to-face, Paul, was in Japan. No, it wasn't. It was a Satoshi Roundtable in Mexico.
Yep.
But prior to that was in Japan at the heat of the Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin scaling debate. And I remember, I think you released an article which got you a lot of feedback with asking the question of whether Lightning Network actually, the user experience when integrating into a wallet feels like an altcoin.
Oh, yeah.
Have you got any plans with Lightning and any thoughts on that now?
Yeah, actually, the thing that excites me most about Lightning, where I think it has the most potential, is actually in creating a cross-crypto, cross-blockchain, decentralized exchange. And I think a lot of the limitations of Lightning aren't as relevant in that experience. And so a product, and I think there already is a company that's looking at doing this. And so hats off to them for kind of seeing that potential. But the issues of having to fund a channel and kind of and keep the connect to the network to receive money, all of those aren't as relevant for targeting traders. And Lightning does enable fairly high frequency trading in comparison to on-chain transactions and shapeshift changely type of exchange. And so being able to do that through Lightning is actually what I think is one of its biggest potentials from the viewpoint of transacting in the currency and actual transacting Bitcoin via Lightning. I think there's still way too many hurdles in the tech for that to come to fruition. There's still a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of tech that either not necessarily needs to be built, almost needs to be invented still. And so there are still a lot of challenges. I keep a close eye on it, and I hope that it's able to be solved because that'll mean great things for Bitcoin. But I'm very cautious about thinking that that's going to solve the scaling solution for normal kind of layer 1 or layer 2 non-custodial payments. And so my biggest fear is that if Lightning doesn't come to be the very fluid, easy to use non-custodial payment solution, that a lot of users will just go fully custodial. They'll just end up going into custodial solutions and we end up with a banking system all over again. So like I said, I'm crossing my fingers that those problems can be solved and that scaling does come. But in the interim, I think that Lightning's best use case is actually as an exchange. And the user experience from the viewpoint of just sending and receiving money right now isn't quite there. And it can very likely feel very much like an altcoin, which is kind of what a sidechain is. Like a sidechain, which is in a way similar to Lightning, even though you have a pegged currency, you have different balances. And the balances have to get transferred between each other and have to be represented differently inside of a wallet. And I think a lot of people, took that. Obviously, if you're a big fan of Lightning, you're going to take that and really hate on that comment, of calling it kind of altcoin. But I refer to that more from the user experience point of view. Like when it's going to be in your wallet, it's going to feel like a different coin altogether, even if it has a pegged value and balance. So I'm crossing my fingers, hoping it works, but still right now kind of skeptical.
Yeah, and I think you were ahead of your time and got a lot of criticism, but it actually, if you look at the Lightning wallets now, it is, you're putting Bitcoin in and it feels like you're shifting it to another currency to use the Lightning network. So
Right.
I think you were spot on, and I think that's the challenge to overcome.
That is.
Thank you very much for your time, Paul. It's been really great to understand more. We did do an early round on Bank to the Future when it was Airbits, and this is the second round we're doing. So if those of you that are interested, if you qualify to invest or finding out if you're a qualifying investor, then head over to BnkToTheFuture.com, and the pitch is live for the next 90 days. If you're from the US, our goal is to open that up to you through our US broker dealer as soon as we've finished an additional integration in order to ensure compliance with US securities laws. That's going to do it now. I think this is, we've covered everything we wanted to cover. We packed it into 1 hour. And that's going to do it for episode 25 of Bank to the Future Live. If you're watching this on YouTube via the recording, then please do add some comments and we'll try and refer back to those and cover them next week. If we get those, or wherever you are, we'll try and pick them up. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you hit the bell symbol, then it will send you a notification every time we go live. And let us know who else you'd like to see, whether you like this format, how you'd like us to improve this, because we're here live each and every week, and we'll look forward to bringing more guests. So thank you for your time, Paul.
Thanks a whole bunch, Simon. Talk to you soon.
All right, we're going to end now.